I don't want to do this, but you leave me no choice. Where is the money?
I told you I don't have it.
The
Please
chains
don't hurt
rattled
me.
in the darkness, and Caleb Ross knew some sounds you can never unhear. He'd seen horrors in the war, watched friends bleed out in his arms, buried his wife and unborn child in the same grave. He thought nothing could break through the wall he'd built around his heart.
Keep going.
Then he found her wrists raw and bleeding, chained like an animal in that godforsaken
We're almost there.
barn.
Just stay with me.
And when she whispered those words through cracked, desperate lips, "Please, don't let him sell me again," something inside him shattered. Her own father, her own blood,
It
had
has to
sold
be
her
here
like
by the river
livestock.
crossing.
This is the
Too
story of
exposed.
how one
They'll be
man's
watching
decision
that
to
fast.
stop and listen
We go through the
changed
canyon at
2
night.
broken lives forever. But before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the end. Comment below what city you're watching from, so I can see how far
I don't
this
wanna do
story
this, but you
travels.
leave me no choice. Where is the money?
Because some stories
Told you I
need
don't
to be
have it.
heard.
Please don't hurt me.
The storm hit Dakota territory like a fist that October night in 1873. Caleb Ross cursed as rain drove into his face. His horse stumbled through mud that sucked at her hooves like quicksand. Easy, girl. He shouldn't have taken the shortcut. The money from the cattle delivery burned in his saddlebag, 3 months' worth of work he couldn't afford to lose. But the old Hutchins farm was faster than the main road, and he'd ridden it 100 times before. Thunder cracked overhead. Then he heard it. Metal on metal. Rhythmic. Desperate. Clinking. His hand dropped to the colt at his hip. The barn loomed ahead through sheets of rain, its door hanging crooked like a broken jaw. The sound came again, chains, he realized. Someone was moving chains. Caleb dismounted. Mud squelched under his boots. Every instinct screamed at him to keep riding, but his feet carried him forward anyway. The barn door groaned as he pushed it open. Darkness swallowed him whole, except for a faint glow deeper inside a dying lantern, casting shadows that writhed across the walls. "Who's there?" Breathing answered him. Fast, panicked. Caleb moved toward the light hand steady on his weapon. The lantern sat on an overturned crate, its flame guttering. That's when he saw the chain. Thick, rusted, snaking across the dirt floor like a dead snake. Then the iron cuff. Then the wrist-raw flesh, dried blood. Then her. She pressed herself into the corner against a support beam, trying to disappear into the wood. Her dress hung in tatters. Her hair fell in matted clumps across a face that couldn't have seen more than 25 years but held a lifetime of pain in its lines. Her eyes locked on his wide, terrified, already expecting the worst. "Don't!" The word barely made it past her cracked lips. "Please don't." Caleb holstered his gun and raised both hands. "Not gonna hurt you." She flinched anyway. Chains rattled. "My name's Caleb Ross. Let me help you." "No." Her voice broke. "He'll come back. He always comes back." "Who did this to you?" She shook her head violently. Caleb took one step closer. She pressed harder against the beam chains clanking against wood. "Listen to me." He kept his voice low. "Nobody's coming in this storm. Let me get those chains off." "You don't understand." Tears cut tracks through the dirt on her face. "If I'm gone when he comes, then he'll deal with me." She stared at him, searching his face for the lie she'd learned to expect from every man. Whatever she saw made her shoulders sag. "Please," she whispered. "Don't let him sell me again." The words punched through Caleb's chest like a bullet. Sell. Again. He crossed the space between them and dropped to his knees. The chain was padlocked to an iron cuff around her wrist, the kind used for prisoners for animals. "I don't have a key," he said, "but I've got tools." "He'll hear." Her free hand grabbed his arm, fingers digging in. "When you break it, he'll hear. He always hears." "Good." Caleb stood. "Let him come." He strode to his horse and returned with a hammer and chisel. The woman watched him like he might vanish, like he was just another dream in an endless nightmare. The first strike rang out. She flinched. The second strike chipped the lock's housing. She started shaking. The third strike. The lock broke apart. Pieces hit the dirt. She stared at her freed wrist like it belonged to someone else. Can you walk? No answer. She just kept staring at the broken chain. Hey. He touched her shoulder gently. She jerked like he'd burned her. Can you stand? I don't. Her voice failed. 3 weeks. Maybe 4. I lose count. 3 weeks chained in this barn. Jesus Christ. Caleb pulled off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. When he tried to help her stand, her legs gave out. He caught her all ribs and sharp angles where there should have been flesh. All right. Different plan. He lifted her. She weighed nothing. She pressed her face against his chest, like a child hiding from monsters. Outside, the rain had softened. His mare stood steady as he positioned the woman in the saddle, then swung up behind her. She slumped against him immediately. Stay with me, he said, wrapping one arm around her waist. 3 miles west. You can make 3 miles. She didn't respond. He spurred his horse forward. The ride stretched into eternity. Every time her breathing slowed too much, he'd talk about the weather, about his horse, about nothing just to keep her anchored. Twice she tried to speak, but the words dissolved into shaking. His cabin appeared through the trees finally. Small, rough, but solid. He dismounted, gathered her in his arms. She'd passed out somewhere in the last mile. Inside, he laid her on his bed and lit the lantern. In better light, the damage was worse. The bruises told stories he didn't want to read. Dark purple fingerprints around her throat, yellow-green marks on her arms, split lip half-healed. Caleb heated water and found clean cloth. She stirred as he cleaned the wounds on her wrists, eyes fluttering open in panic. Easy. You're safe. You're in my cabin. She looked around wildly. Rough wooden walls, simple furniture rifle above the door. Where? 3 miles from the barn. He wrung out the bloody cloth. What's your name? She closed her eyes. Doesn't matter. Matters to me. Silence stretched. Outside, an owl called. Lena, she finally whispered. Lena. He nodded. I'm Caleb. Who did this to you? Her whole body went rigid. No. Lena. You don't understand. She tried to sit up, failed. If I tell you, if anyone knows, I need to know what's coming. She laughed, a sound so broken it barely resembled laughter. What's coming? You should have left me there. You should have kept riding. Well, I didn't. Then you're a fool. She turned away. He'll kill you for taking his property. Property? Who? Caleb asked. Roy Maddox. The name came out like poison. He owns half the county, the cattle, the land. And you think he owns you? My father made sure of it. Bitterness dripped from every word. Sold me for $300 and a forgiven debt. 15 years I took care of that man. He sold me for cards and whiskey. Caleb's jaw tightened. Your father's name? Jacob Carter. Lives above the saloon in town. Drinks himself stupid every night on the money he got for me. Caleb stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Rain streaked down the glass. Where is he now? Lena asked quietly. Maddox. Nobody was at the farm. Just you. He comes every few days, brings water, stale bread, checks the chains. She touched her raw wrist. He'll come tomorrow, maybe tonight. And when he finds me gone, he can try to find you here. You really are a fool. But something in her voice had shifted. Why, you don't know me. Caleb turned from the window. You asked me not to let him sell you again. That's enough. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. They stared at each other, two strangers bound by broken chains and choices that couldn't be undone. You should rest, Caleb said. I can't. Her voice cracked. Every time I close my eyes, I see him. I hear the chains. I hear my father's voice saying, "She's yours now, Maddox." Caleb pulled a chair close and sat. "Then I'll talk. You don't have to sleep. Just rest." "Talk about what?" "Whatever keeps the chains quiet." So he told her about the war. Not the glory parts, there weren't any. He told her about carrying wounded men through Georgia mud, about the day his regiment broke, about coming home to find his wife's grave 3 months cold. "Lost my wife and our unborn son in the same week," he said. "Built this cabin because I couldn't stand people looking at me like I was broken." Lena's eyes never left his face. "You lost everything," she said. "Not everything. Still got my freedom." The word hung between them, heavy with meaning. "Yeah," Caleb said quietly. "Still got that." Lena's eyes drifted closed. Her breathing evened. Sleep took her without a fight for the first time in weeks. Caleb watched until dawn broke, painting the room gold and red. In sleep, she looked younger, someone who might have laughed once, who might have dreamed of ordinary things. He stood and started coffee. The smell filled the cabin. Behind him, Lena stirred. "Caleb." Her voice was small, uncertain, like she'd woken expecting the barn. "Right here." He poured 2 cups. "Coffee." I don't remember the last time I had coffee." He brought her a cup. She wrapped both hands around it, savoring the warmth. "This is real," she said. "You're real." "Last time I checked." She almost smiled. Then horses, multiple horses, moving fast. Lena's cup shattered on the floor. "He found me!" Pure terror flooded her face. "God, he found me!" Caleb grabbed his rifle and moved to the window. 4 riders approached through the trees, led by a big man on a bigger horse. Expensive clothes. Swagger. The other men orbited him like servants. "That Maddox?" he asked. Lena had gone white. "Yes." "Stay inside. Don't come out." "Caleb, you can't." "He can try." Caleb stepped onto the porch, rifle held loose. The riders pulled up 20 feet away. Maddox sat his mount like a king, 50 years old, running to fat but still dangerous. Eyes cold. "Morning," Maddox said. "Hell of a night we had." "What do you want?" "What's mine?" Maddox smiled, showing tobacco-stained teeth. "You got something that belongs to me, Cowboy." "Don't know what you mean." "No." Maddox gestured. One of his men held up the broken chain from the barn. "Found this at Hutchins' place. Lock's busted. Girl's gone. And you were seen riding through town last night with something in your coat." "Maybe I was cold. Maybe you're stupid." Maddox leaned forward. "That girl's mine. Legal. Got a bill of sale from her father, so bring her out now or we burn this cabin down with both of you inside." Caleb raised his rifle slightly. "That'd be unfortunate." The 4 men tensed. Hands moved toward weapons. "Easy." Maddox held up one hand. "No need for blood. I'm reasonable. Give me my property. I forget you stole her. You keep breathing. Simple." "She's not property." "She is if I got papers saying so." Maddox's smile widened. "Want to see them?" "Don't care what papers you got. She's not going back." The smile disappeared. "Boy, you know who I am. I own this county. The sheriff works for me. The judge drinks my whiskey. You're nobody, just some drifter playing hero." "Maybe," Caleb said. "But this nobody's got a rifle pointed at your chest. You won't shoot. Try me." Maddox studied him. Something shifted in his eyes, calculation. "You know what I think," Maddox said. "I think." The rifle cracked. Maddox's hat flew off, carried by the bullet that passed half an inch from his skull. Horses screamed. Men shouted. Maddox fought his mount, face purple. "Next one's lower," Caleb said, already chambering another round. "You son of a... Leave. Now." 5 heartbeats. Nobody moved. The world balanced on a knife edge. Then Maddox jerked his reins. "This ain't over, Cowboy. Not by a damn sight. You just signed your death warrant. Get off my land." Maddox spurred his horse. The four riders wheeled away, thundering back through the trees. Caleb stood on the porch until the hoofbeats faded. Then his hands started shaking. The cabin door opened. Lena stood there, wrapped in his coat, staring at him. "You shot at him," she whispered. "You shot at Roy Maddox." "Shot near him. He'll come back, with 20 men. He'll—" "Let him. You don't understand what you've done." Caleb lowered the rifle. "I understand fine. Question is what now?" "What now?" She stared. "There's no what now. You should take me to the sheriff. Say I tricked you. Say anything. Just save yourself." "I'm not turning you in." "Then you're dead." "Probably." He moved past her into the cabin. "You hungry?" "What?" "Food. You eaten anything besides stale bread lately?" "I know, but—" "Then sit. I make decent eggs." Lena stood frozen, watching him move around like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just declared war on the most powerful man in the county. "Why?" she asked. "Why risk everything for me?" Caleb cracked eggs into a pan. Worst part of the war wasn't the killing. It was watching people turn away, seeing someone who needed help and pretending you didn't, choosing safety over what's right. He looked at her. "I did that enough times. Not doing it anymore. Even if it kills you. Especially then." The eggs sizzled. Morning light filled the cabin. Lena sat slowly still, staring at this man who made no sense. "They'll come back," she said. "Maybe not today, but they'll come." "I know. And when they do—" Caleb plated the eggs and set them in front of her. "We'll deal with it. We." Lena picked up a fork with trembling hands. The eggs tasted like hope, like safety, like maybe the world held more than chains. She started to cry. Caleb said nothing. He just sat across from her and drank his coffee, letting her tears come without shame. Outside, the sun climbed higher, burning off the storm clouds. Inside, something began to heal. Lena wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "What happens now?" "Now." Caleb leaned back. "Now we figure out how to keep you breathing." "That's not much of a plan." "It's a start." He stood and moved to the window, scanning the tree line. "Maddox will go to the sheriff, maybe the judge. He'll come back with the law on his side. Or an army. Or both." Caleb turned to face her. "How long were you in that barn?" 3 weeks, maybe 4. "And before that?" Lena's jaw tightened. "Maddox kept me at his ranch. 2 months, in a locked room." "Anyone else see you there?" "His men. The housekeeper, but she won't talk. Too scared." "What about your father? He know where Maddox keeps you?" "My father?" Lena's laugh was sharp, bitter. "My father doesn't care where I am as long as his debts stay paid." Caleb was quiet for a moment. "How much did he owe?" $300. Gambling debts to Maddox's saloon. Her voice went flat. 15 years I cooked his meals, mended his clothes, nursed him through whiskey sickness. And he sold me like a horse. "Where's your mother?" "Dead. 10 years now." "Siblings?" "None that lived." Lena pushed the eggs around her plate. "It was just me and him. And I wasn't enough." Caleb moved back to the table and sat. "You were more than enough. Your father's the one who wasn't." She looked up at him, eyes glistening. "You don't know me. How can you say that?" "Because no child deserves what he did to you, no matter who they are." The words settled between them like a weight finally lifted. Lena took another bite of eggs, then another. She ate slowly, like she'd forgotten how food was supposed to taste. "What did Maddox plan to do with me?" Caleb asked. "Sell me west, to mining camps." Her voice dropped. "Men pay good money for women out there. Maddox has a whole business. Buys girls from desperate fathers, breaks them in his barn, ships them out with traders. Rage burned through Caleb's chest. How many others? I don't know. I only saw one other girl before me. She fought too hard. Lena's hands shook. They found her in the river 3 days later. Jesus Christ! Nobody stopped him. Nobody even tried. Lena set down her fork. That's why you need to turn me in. Save yourself. Maddox always wins. Not this time. You can't fight him alone. Who says I'm alone? Caleb stood and grabbed his coat. I need to ride into town. You stay here. Don't answer the door for anyone. You're going to town. Panic flared in her eyes. He'll see you. He already knows I've got you. Hiding won't change that. Caleb checked his rifle. But I need to know what we're up against. Who's loyal to Maddox? Who might help? Nobody will help. I told you he owns everyone. Then I'll find out for myself. He moved to the door, then paused. Lena, do you trust me? She looked at him for a long moment. I don't know. But I want to. That's enough. He opened the door. I'll be back before dark. Bar this door behind me. Caleb. He looked back. Thank you, she whispered, for not leaving me there. He nodded once, then stepped outside. Lena moved to the door and dropped the bar into place. Through the window, she watched him mount his horse and ride toward town. For the first time in months, she was alone without chains. The silence felt strange, foreign, almost frightening. She moved through the cabin, slowly touching things: the rough wooden table, the simple chairs, the books stacked on a shelf. Real things. Solid things. Things that weren't chains or darkness or men's hands. Her reflection caught in a small mirror on the wall. She barely recognized herself. Hollow cheeks, sunken eyes, hair matted and dull, bruises like paint across her skin. This was what her father had sold. This was what Maddox had bought. Lena turned away from the mirror and sat on the edge of the bed. Caleb's scent lingered on the blanket, wood smoke and coffee and something clean. She lay down slowly, every muscle aching. The mattress felt soft. Too soft. She'd gotten used to dirt floors and wooden beams. Outside, birds sang. The sun climbed higher. The world moved forward like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. For the first time since her father sold her, Lena closed her eyes without fear. And slept. Betlo. Caleb rode into town just after noon. The main street of Redemption, population 200 on a good day, stretched out before him like every other frontier town he'd seen. False front buildings, hitching posts, mud streets. The saloon squatted at the center like a spider in a web. Maddox's saloon. Caleb tied his horse outside the general store and went in. Old Ben Cooper stood behind the counter counting supplies. Caleb, Ben nodded. Didn't expect to see you today. Need some things. Caleb grabbed a basket. Flour, coffee, sugar if you got it. Got sugar. Ben watched him move through the store. Heard you had some excitement this morning. News travels fast. Always does. Ben leaned on the counter. Word is, you got something of Roy Maddox's. That true? Caleb set the basket down. Word is wrong. Is it? Maddox doesn't own people, Ben, no matter what papers he's got. Ben's eyes darted to the door, then back. Careful, Caleb. Maddox has ears everywhere. Let him hear. Caleb pulled out money. How much? $2. Ben took the coin slowly. Look, I don't know what's going on, but what? But Roy Maddox has owned this town for 15 years. Men who cross him don't last long. Maybe it's time that changed. Maybe. Ben lowered his voice. But not today. Not by you. Go home, Caleb. Forget whatever you found. It's not worth dying over. That's where you're wrong. Caleb gathered his supplies. It's exactly worth dying over. He walked out before Ben could respond. Across the street, the saloon doors swung open. 3 men stepped out. Maddox's men, the same ones from this morning. They saw Caleb and stopped. For a moment, nobody moved. Then one of them, a lean man with a scar across his jaw, spat in the dirt and walked toward Caleb. "You got some nerve showing your face here." Caleb set his supplies on his horse. "It's a free town." "Not for you." The scarred man stopped 5 feet away. "Boss wants his property back. You got until sundown." "Tell your boss he can want all he likes." "Sundown," the man repeated. "Or we come and take her. And you." "I'll be waiting." The scarred man smiled, cold empty. "You really think you can win this?" "I think I can try." "Trying gets you killed. Living scared gets you killed slower." Caleb mounted his horse. "Tell Maddox I said that." He rode out of town at a walk, not looking back, but he felt their eyes on him the whole way. By the time Caleb reached the cabin, the sun hung low and angry on the horizon. He dismounted and carried the supplies to the door. It didn't open. He knocked twice. "Lena, it's me." The bar scraped. The door cracked open. Lena's face appeared, pale, eyes wide. "You came back." "Said I would." He pushed inside and set the supplies on the table. "You all right?" "I heard horses. About an hour ago. They rode past but didn't stop." Her hands twisted together. "I thought they were coming for me." "Probably scouting, checking if you're here." Caleb moved to the window and scanned the tree line. Nothing moved except shadows. "We don't have much time." "Time for what?" "They gave me until sundown. That's 30 minutes. Lena's face went white. "Then we have to run. Right now. We can head north into the mountains." "Running won't work. Maddox has men everywhere. We wouldn't make it 10 miles. "Then what?" Her voice climbed. "What do we do?" Caleb turned to face her. "We fight." "Fight?" She laughed, that broken sound again. "It's you and me against Maddox's whole gang. That's not fighting, that's suicide." "Maybe. But I'm done running from men like him." Caleb pulled his rifle down and checked the ammunition. "War taught me something. Sometimes you gotta stand your ground even when the odds are bad. Especially when the odds are bad." "This isn't war. This is exactly war." He looked at her. "Maddox thinks he can take whatever he wants. Thinks people are property. Thinks power means he's right. I've fought men like him before. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But you always fight." Lena stared at him. "You're insane." "Probably." He moved to the door. "But I'm the insane man standing between you and him. So you got a choice: stay here and hide, or learn to defend yourself." "I don't know how to fight." "Then I'll teach you." Caleb opened the door. "Come on." She didn't move. "Caleb, you want to spend the rest of your life running, hiding, waiting for him to find you." He held out his hand. "Or you want to learn how to stand?" Lena looked at his hand for a long moment. Then she took it. Outside, the air smelled like rain and pine. Caleb led her to a clearing behind the cabin where he'd stacked firewood. He pulled his revolver and handed it to her. She took it like it might bite. "It's heavy." "It's a gun. It's supposed to be." He moved behind her and adjusted her grip. "Hold it like this. Both hands. Both. Thumb over thumb." "I've never—" "I know. That's why we're doing this." He pointed to a log 20 feet away. "See that knot in the wood?" She nodded. "That's your target. Breathe in, breathe out. Squeeze the trigger. Slow, don't jerk it." Lena raised the gun. Her hands shook. "Steady," Caleb said quietly. "You're stronger than you think." She fired. The shot went wide, kicking up dirt 5 feet left of the log. The recoil nearly knocked the gun from her hands. "Again," Caleb said. She fired again, closer but still missed. Again. Third shot, fourth shot, fifth shot. The sixth shot hit the log. Lena lowered the gun, breathing hard. I hit it. You did. Caleb reloaded. Now do it again. They practiced until the light failed, and her hands stopped shaking. She didn't hit the target every time, but she hit it enough. When they went back inside, Lena's face had changed. Still scared. Still uncertain. But something harder lived in her eyes now. They're not coming tonight, Caleb said, lighting the lantern. They want us scared, want us to make a mistake. How do you know? Because that's what I'd do. He started coffee. Maddox is smart. He won't rush this. He'll wait until we're tired, until we let our guard down. So what do? We don't let our guard down. Caleb poured 2 cups and handed her one. And tomorrow, we go on the offensive. Offensive? Lena almost dropped her cup. You want to go after Maddox? Not Maddox, your father. The cup slipped from her hands. Coffee splashed across the floor. She didn't notice. My father. He's the one who started this. He signed the papers. He took the money. Caleb set his cup down. If we can get him to admit what he did in front of witnesses, he won't. Lena's voice went flat. He'll never admit it. He'd rather die than admit he was wrong. Then maybe we convince him dying's the better option. She stared at him. You'd kill him. If I have to. Caleb met her eyes. Would that bother you? Lena was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. No. God help me, no. They sat in silence while the coffee cooled and the night pressed against the windows. Tell me about him, Caleb said finally. Your father. Why? Because I need to know who I'm dealing with. Lena pulled Caleb's coat tighter around her shoulders. Jacob Carter, 53 years old. Been drunk more days than sober since my mother died. Used to be a good man, or so people say. I don't remember that man. What do you remember? I remember him hitting me when dinner wasn't hot enough. I remember him spending our food money on cards. I remember nursing him through the shakes, cleaning his vomit, listening to him cry about how hard his life was. Her jaw tightened. I remember the night he told me I was going to help him out of his troubles. That Maddox had offered good money. That it was my duty as his daughter. What did you say? I begged. I cried. I told him I'd work harder, cook better, do anything. Lena's voice cracked. He hit me across the mouth and said I'd already been sold, that the papers were signed, that I belonged to Maddox now. How long ago? 2 months. Maddox came the next day with 2 men. They dragged me out while my father counted his money. She wiped her eyes roughly. I screamed his name, begged him to stop them. He never even looked at me. Caleb's hands curled into fists. Where does he live? Above the saloon. Maddox gave him a room as part of the deal. Lets him drink for free. Bitter laugh. My father got everything he wanted. Except he didn't. Caleb stood and paced. Man like that, he's got nothing. No honor, no family. Just whiskey and shame. He doesn't feel shame. That requires a conscience. Everyone's got a conscience. Some just bury it deeper. Caleb stopped at the window. Tomorrow morning we go see him. He won't help us. He doesn't have to help. He just has to talk. Caleb turned to face her. And if he won't talk willingly, we'll make him. Lena stood slowly. You keep risking your life for me. Why? I told you. No, the real reason. She moved closer. Nobody does this for a stranger. Nobody. Caleb was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. My wife's name was Sarah. She was carrying our son when the fever took her. I was out on a cattle drive, needed the money. By the time I got home, she'd been in the ground 3 days. I'm sorry. Everyone said there was nothing I could have done, that the fever was too strong too fast. But I wasn't there. When she needed me most, I wasn't there. He met Lena's eyes. I can't bring Sarah back, can't save my son, but I can damn well save you, and I will. Lena's eyes filled with tears. What if you can't? Then at least I tried. He moved past her to the door. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's gonna be hard. Where are you going? To keep watch. He grabbed his rifle. Sleep, Lena. You're safe tonight. She watched him step outside and close the door. Through the window, she saw him settle against the wall, rifle across his knees, eyes on the trees. A man keeping watch. A man keeping his word. Lena lay down on the bed, exhaustion pulling at her bones. But sleep wouldn't come. Every sound made her jump. Branches scraping, animals moving, wind through the trees. Hours passed. Finally, just before dawn, she drifted off. She dreamed of chains. When she woke, sunlight streamed through the windows and the smell of bacon filled the cabin. Caleb stood at the stove cooking like he hadn't been up all night. Morning, he said without turning. Sleep. A little. Lena sat up. Did they come? No, told you they wouldn't. He plated the bacon and brought it to the table. Eat. We're leaving in 20 minutes. Leaving? Going to town, to see your father. Lena's stomach clenched. I can't. I can't face him. Yes, you can. Caleb sat across from her. You faced Maddox's barn for 3 weeks. You can face your father for 3 minutes. That's different. How? Because. Her voice caught. Because part of me still wants him to say he's sorry. Still wants him to be my father again. And he won't. He'll just be who he is. Caleb finished. And maybe that's what you need to see. The truth. Not the father you wish you had. The man he actually is. Lena picked at the bacon. What if seeing him breaks me? Then I'll help you put yourself back together. Caleb reached across the table and covered her hand with his. You're not alone anymore, Lena. Remember that. She nodded slowly. Okay. They ate quickly. Caleb gave her his spare shirt and pants, too big, but better than the torn dress. She rolled up the sleeves and tied the pants with rope. How do I look? She asked. Like someone who's not giving up. He handed her the revolver. Know how to use this now? She checked the cylinder like he'd taught her. I know. Good. Keep it hidden. Don't draw unless I tell you to. He opened the door. Stay close. Don't talk unless I say. Understand? Yes. They rode into town on Caleb's horse, Lena sitting behind him, arms wrapped around his waist. Every time they passed someone on the road, she tensed. But Caleb just nodded like everything was normal, like they weren't riding into the mouth of hell. Redemption looked different in daylight, smaller, dirtier, more desperate. People stopped to stare as they rode down Main Street. Whispers followed them like smoke. Caleb pulled up outside the saloon and dismounted. He helped Lena down, keeping her close. Stay behind me, he said quietly. They walked inside. The saloon smelled like stale beer and old tobacco. A few men sat at tables drinking even though it wasn't yet noon. The bartender, a fat man with no neck, looked up and froze. We're closed, he said. No, you're not. Caleb moved to the bar. Jacob Carter, where is he? Don't know nobody by that name. Try again. The bartender's eyes darted to the stairs. Look, mister, I don't want trouble. Too late for that. Caleb put one hand on his gun. Last chance. Upstairs, second door on the left. The words tumbled out fast. But he's probably asleep. Caleb was already moving. Lena followed, heart hammering against her ribs. They climbed the stairs. The hallway stank of piss and vomit. Second door on the left. Caleb kicked it open. The room was small, dark, filthy. A man lay sprawled on a cot, thin, gray-haired, reeking of whiskey. He jerked awake at the sound, eyes struggling to focus. What the hell? Then he saw Lena. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. Maybe fear. Maybe shame. Then it died. You, Jacob Carter croaked. You got some nerve coming here. Lena couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. This was her father, this wreck of a man, this stranger. Get up, Caleb said. Who the hell are you? The man who's going to make you tell the truth. Caleb grabbed Jacob by his shirt and hauled him to his feet. You sold your daughter, signed papers, took money from Roy Maddox. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Caleb shoved him against the wall. And you're going to admit it. In front of the sheriff. In front of everyone. Jacob laughed a wet, rattling sound. The sheriff works for Maddox, you idiot. Everyone in this town works for Maddox. You think they'll believe you over him? They'll believe the papers you signed. What papers? Jacob's eyes glittered. I burned them. Night after I got my money. No papers means no proof. Lena felt the floor tilt beneath her. You burned them. Of course I burned them. Jacob looked at her directly for the first time. You think I wanted evidence of what I did? I ain't stupid. You're worse than stupid, Lena whispered. You're a coward. Call me what you want. Doesn't change facts. Maddox owns you legal now. Nobody can prove different. He smiled, broken teeth, dead eyes. You should have stayed where you were, made the best of it. Least Maddox feeds his property. Caleb's fist connected with Jacob's jaw. The old man dropped like a stone, blood streaming from his mouth. Get up, Caleb said. Jacob spat blood. Go to hell. After you. Caleb hauled him up again. You're coming with us. You're gonna tell the sheriff what you did. I'm not telling anybody anything. Jacob laughed again. And even if I did, who'd believe a drunk over Roy Maddox? You can't win this boy. You're dead. You just don't know it yet. Then I'll die knowing I tried. Caleb dragged him toward the door. Move. They made it halfway down the stairs before the saloon doors burst open. Roy Maddox walked in, followed by 6 men, all armed, all ready. The bartender had run to warn him. Caleb froze. Lena pressed against his back. Jacob started laughing. Told you, Jacob wheezed. Can't win. Maddox smiled cold, triumphant. Hell of a morning you're having, Cowboy. Breaking into my saloon, assaulting one of my tenants, kidnapping my property. She's not your property. Sheriff says different. Maddox gestured. A thin man in a badge stepped forward. Sheriff Dawes, eyes dead, spine bent. Tell him, Sheriff. Roy Maddox has legal claim, Dawes said mechanically. Girl needs to come back. No crime was committed. No crime? Caleb's voice rose. He chained her in a barn. Beat her. Was gonna sell her west. Can't prove any of that. Maddox shrugged. No witnesses. No papers. Just your word. And your word don't mean shit in my town. Then I guess we're doing this the hard way. Caleb's hand moved to his gun. 6 weapons cocked in response. Don't be stupid, Maddox said. You're good, but you ain't that good. You draw, you die. Simple math. So does she. Caleb kept his hand steady. That what you want? Maddox's smile widened. Damaged goods are still goods. I'll take my chances. Lena's hand moved to the gun hidden in her waistband. Caleb felt the movement and shook his head slightly. Last chance, Maddox said. Give me the girl. Walk away. Live to see tomorrow. Can't do that. Then you're a fool. Maddox raised his hand. Boys. The window behind the bar exploded. Glass showered everywhere. Men shouted. Someone fired. The bullet went wide, punching through the wall. In the chaos, Caleb grabbed Lena and dove behind the bar. Jacob scrambled toward Maddox. More shots rang out, deafening in the enclosed space. Stay down, Caleb shouted. What's happening? Don't know. Don't care. We're getting out. He peered over the bar. Maddox's men had taken cover. The sheriff crouched by the door. Jacob had disappeared. Another window shattered. This time, Caleb saw the shooter, someone outside, firing from cover. Who is that? Lena asked. Friend or enemy doesn't matter. It's our chance. Caleb grabbed her hand. Back door, now. They ran low, staying behind the bar. Bullets tore through the air above them. Someone screamed. They burst through the back door into an alley. A horse waited there, saddled ready. Not Caleb's horse. Someone else's. Who? Lena started. Later. Get on. She climbed up. Caleb swung up behind her and spurred the horse. They bolted down the alley as more shots echoed behind them. They didn't stop until they'd cleared town and hit the open prairie. Caleb pulled the horse up, breathing hard. You okay? He asked. Lena nodded, unable to speak. Good. Because we just made things a hell of a lot worse. Who was shooting? Who left us that horse? I don't know. Caleb scanned the horizon. But someone's helping us. Question is why. Behind them, smoke rose from Redemption. Ahead, the mountains loomed dark and dangerous. We can't go back to the cabin, Caleb said. They know where it is. They'll burn it down looking for us. Then where? North, into the mountains. Find somewhere to hide until... Until what? Until Maddox gives up. Lena laughed bitterly. He won't. You know he won't. No. Caleb turned the horse north. Until we figure out how to end this. They rode hard for 2 hours, climbing into the foothills. The borrowed horse was strong, but even she began to tire. As the sun climbed toward noon, Caleb found a narrow canyon with a stream running through it. We'll rest here, he said, dismounting. Lena slid down, legs shaking. She sat heavily on a rock while Caleb watered the horse. My father, she said quietly. When Maddox came in, I saw. He ran to him. Like a dog to his master. Tears streaked her face. I thought maybe seeing me he'd remember. He'd feel something. Anything. Caleb crouched beside her. Some men are too far gone to save Lena. Your father's one of them. I know. I've always known. She wiped her eyes. But knowing doesn't make it hurt less. No, it doesn't. He stood. But it makes it easier to let go. They rested for an hour, then rode deeper into the mountains. The terrain grew rougher, the air thinner. By evening, they found an abandoned line shack, half collapsed, but still offering shelter. Caleb cleared debris while Lena tended the horse. When darkness fell, he risked a small fire, and they ate the last of the bacon from that morning. What now? Lena asked, staring into the flames. Now we survive. Tomorrow we plan. Plan what? We're fugitives. We have no proof, no allies, no... We have each other. Caleb poked the fire. That's more than we had yesterday. Yesterday you had a cabin, a life, peace. Had a cabin, he corrected. Never had peace, not since the war. He looked at her across the flames. Maybe that's why I'm doing this. Maybe I need the fight as much as you need saving. That's a terrible reason to die. Probably. He smiled slightly. But it's the only reason I've got. Lena was quiet for a moment. Then, the person who helped us, the shooter, you think they'll find us? If they want to. And if it's a trap, then we deal with it. Caleb lay back against his saddle. Get some sleep. I'll take first watch. Caleb. Yeah. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for not giving up on yourself. She smiled, small, fragile, but real. Then she curled up near the fire and closed her eyes. Caleb watched the flames dance and wondered what tomorrow would bring. More violence, probably. More death, maybe. But also maybe something else. Maybe hope. Outside, the wind howled through the mountains like a promise or a warning. He checked his rifle and settled in to wait for whatever came next. Dawn came cold and gray, seeping through the cracks in the line shack like water through stone. Caleb woke to the sound of hoofbeats. His hand found his rifle before his eyes fully opened. Across the dead fire, Lena sat up face pale. "How many?" she whispered. "1, maybe 2. He moved to the window, just a gap in the rotting wood, and peered out. A single rider approached slowly, hands visible empty. Not Maddox's men. This person wore a long coat and rode a paint mare. As they drew closer, Caleb saw long dark hair, brown skin, and eyes that missed nothing. A woman. She stopped 30 feet from the shack and called out, "You gonna shoot me or can we talk?" Caleb kept his rifle up. "Who are you?" "Name's Sarah Broken Wing. I'm the one who shot out that window yesterday. The one who left you the horse." She gestured to the paint mare. "Also the one who's been tracking Maddox's operation for 6 months." "Why?" "Because he took my sister. Sold her west, same as he planned to do with your girl there." Sarah's voice went flat. "She died in a mining camp in Nevada, 14 years old." Lena moved to stand beside Caleb. "I'm sorry." Being sorry won't bring her back, but stopping Maddox might save the next girl. Sarah's eyes locked on Caleb. "So I'll ask again, we gonna talk, or we gonna stand here wasting time while Maddox rallies his men?" Caleb lowered his rifle. "Come in, slow." Sarah dismounted and approached with deliberate steps. Up close, she looked 30, maybe 35, with scars on her knuckles and a knife at her belt that had seen use. She stepped inside and looked around the shack. "Smart choice holing up here. Maddox's men don't know these mountains like I do." She pulled off her gloves. "But they'll find you eventually, probably by tonight." "How many men does he have?" Caleb asked. 15, maybe 20. Plus Sheriff Dawes and his deputies, though they're worthless in a real fight." Sarah sat on an upturned crate. "He'll send them in waves. Wear you down. He's patient when he wants to be." "You've been watching him for 6 months," Lena said quietly. "Why not go to the law?" "What law?" Sarah laughed bitterly. "The sheriff's bought. The judge drinks Maddox's whiskey. The marshal's 300 miles away and doesn't give a damn about dead Indian girls." She leaned forward. "There is no law here. There's just Maddox and everyone too scared to fight him." "Until now," Caleb said. "Until now." Sarah studied him. "You're either brave or stupid, maybe both. But you made your stand. Now Maddox can't let you live. If he does, people might get ideas, might think he's weak." "So what do you suggest?" "I suggest we hit him first, hard, before he's ready." Lena shook her head. "That's suicide. You just said he has 20 men." "I said 15 to 20, and half of them are cowards who won't fight if they think they might die." Sarah pulled a folded paper from her coat. "I've been watching his ranch, learning his patterns. I know when he's vulnerable." She spread the paper on the floor, a crude map drawn in charcoal showing buildings, fences, guard positions. "This is Maddox's ranch. Main house here, bunkhouse there. He keeps his men close, but not too close. Likes his privacy." Sarah pointed. "Every third night he sends most of his crew into town. Gambling, drinking, whoring. Leaves only 5 or 6 men at the ranch." "When's the next third night?" Caleb asked. "Tomorrow." "Tomorrow," Lena's voice climbed. "That's not enough time. It's the only time we've got." Sarah looked at her. "Maddox is hunting you now. Every hour we wait, he gets closer. We need to end this before he finds us." "End this how?" Caleb studied the map. "What's your plan?" "Fire, chaos, fear." Sarah's smile was cold. "We burn his bunkhouse, scatter his horses, make him think he's under attack by a dozen men instead of 3. In the confusion, we get into the main house and confront him directly." "And then what?" "Then we make him confess, make him admit what he's done. Get it in writing or get witnesses, something that'll hold up even with a crooked sheriff." "He'll never confess," Lena said. "Men like him don't. Men like him confess when they're staring down a gun barrel with their ranch burning around them." Sarah folded the map. "Question is, are you willing to do what needs doing? Because halfway don't work with men like Maddox. You go all the way, or you die trying. Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'm in. Good. Sarah looked at Lena. What about you? Me. You think you can just hide while we fight your battle? This is your freedom we're talking about. Your life. You got a stake in this same as us. Lena's hands trembled. I don't know how to fight. You know how to shoot. Caleb taught you. Sarah stood. That's enough. You don't need to be a gunfighter. You just need to be willing to pull the trigger when it matters. Lena looked at Caleb. What if I freeze? What if I can't? Then you'll die. Sarah's voice was hard, but not unkind. Same as the rest of us. But at least you'll die fighting, instead of chained in some barn waiting for the next bastard to buy you. The words hit like a slap. Lena flinched, then straightened. All right, she said quietly. I'm in. Good. Sarah moved to the door. We've got one day to prepare. I'll scout the route tonight. You two rest up. Tomorrow night we burn it all down. She left before either of them could respond. Caleb watched her ride away, then turned to Lena. You don't have to do this. You can stay here, stay hidden. And let you die for me. Lena shook her head. No, I'm done hiding. Sarah's right. This is my fight too. It's dangerous. Everything's dangerous now. She picked up the revolver he'd given her and checked the cylinder like he'd taught her. At least this way I have some control. They spent the day preparing. Caleb cleaned weapons and rationed ammunition. Lena practiced drawing and firing until her hands stopped shaking quite so much. Neither spoke about what might happen tomorrow, the violence, the blood, the very real possibility they wouldn't survive. As evening fell, Caleb built a small fire and they ate the last of their supplies in silence. Tell me about your wife, Lena said suddenly. Caleb looked up. What? Sarah. Your wife. You said she died, but you never told me about her. Who she was. What she was like. Why do you want to know? Because tomorrow we might die. And I want to know what you're carrying. What you're fighting for besides me. Caleb stared into the fire for a long moment. Then he spoke. She was small. Barely came up to my shoulder. Dark hair, green eyes, laugh that could light up a room. His voice softened. Met her at a church social. I was just back from the war, didn't want to be there. She brought me lemonade and asked if I always looked so miserable. Lena smiled slightly. What did you say? Said yes. She laughed and sat down next to me anyway. Started talking about her garden, her cats, her plans to open a bakery. He shook his head. I didn't say 10 words the whole night. Didn't matter. She kept talking. By the end, I was smiling without realizing it. Sounds like she was good for you. She was. Best thing that ever happened to me. His jaw tightened. When she got pregnant, she was so happy. Used to talk to her belly, sing to the baby. Had names picked out, Thomas if it was a boy, Elizabeth if it was a girl. Thomas? Lena repeated softly. Yeah, Thomas. Caleb's voice roughened. I was gone 3 weeks on that cattle drive, needed the money for the baby. When I came back, the neighbor met me at the road, told me Sarah had gotten sick, fever, took her in 2 days, took the baby with her. God, Caleb. I didn't even get to say goodbye, didn't get to hold her one last time, just came home to an empty house and 2 graves. He looked at Lena. That's what I'm carrying, the weight of not being there, the guilt of choosing money over her. It wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? I knew she was fragile, knew the pregnancy was hard on her, but I went anyway because we needed the money. He threw a stick into the fire. Been trying to make up for it ever since, trying to save someone, help someone be there when it matters, because I wasn't there when it mattered most. Lena moved closer and took his hand. You're here now. For me. That matters. Does it? Yes. She squeezed his hand. Sarah would be proud of you. The man you've become. The man willing to fight for someone he barely knows. Maybe. Caleb looked at their joined hands. Or maybe she'd think I'm a fool throwing his life away. Maybe we're all fools. Lena leaned her head on his shoulder. But at least we're fools together. They sat like that until the fire died, and the stars came out cold and bright overhead. The next day crawled by like a wounded animal. Sarah returned at noon with more details. Guard positions, timing escape routes. They went over the plan 3 times until everyone knew their part. Remember, Sarah said, we're not trying to kill everyone. We're trying to create chaos, make Maddox vulnerable, get him to talk. And if he won't talk, Lena asked, then we improvise. Sarah checked her rifle. But he'll talk. Men like him always do when they realize they're losing. As the sun began to set, they mounted up. Sarah led them through narrow mountain passes, keeping to terrain where they couldn't be easily followed. By full dark, they were in position on a ridge overlooking Maddox's ranch. Below, lamplight glowed in windows. Men moved between buildings, horses stamped in the corral. Count them, Sarah whispered. Caleb studied the ranch. 6 men. Maybe 7, just like you said. Ooh. Bunkhouses there. Lamps still lit, so at least some are inside. Sarah pulled 3 bottles from her saddlebag, whiskey bottles stuffed with oil-soaked rags. These'll do the job. Wait for my signal. What's the signal? Lena asked. You'll know. Sarah disappeared into the darkness. Caleb and Lena waited, hearts pounding. Minutes stretched like hours. Caleb kept his hand on Lena's arm, feeling her tremble. You can still back out, he whispered. No, I can't. Lena. I said no. She gripped her revolver tighter. I'm seeing this through. Then light. A torch flared near the corral. Sarah's signal. Caleb struck a match and lit the rag on his bottle. He stood, drew back and hurled it at the bunkhouse. The bottle smashed against the wooden wall and erupted in flames. Lena lit hers and threw. Her bottle fell short, but still spread fire across the dry grass. Men shouted. The bunkhouse door burst open. Men stumbled out half-dressed, grabbing for weapons. Sarah's 3rd bottle hit the barn. Horses screamed. The whole structure went up like kindling. Now! Caleb grabbed Lena's hand, and they ran down the ridge toward the main house. Gunfire cracked behind them. Bullets whined past. Caleb fired back without aiming, just trying to keep heads down. They hit the porch. Caleb kicked the door open, and they burst inside. The main room was empty. Fancy furniture, expensive rugs, paintings on the walls. The kind of wealth built on suffering. Upstairs. Lena pointed to a staircase. They took the stairs 2 at a time. A door at the end of the hall hung open. Light spilled out. Caleb went through first, rifle up. Roy Maddox sat at a desk pouring whiskey like nothing was happening. He looked up as they entered and smiled. Wondered when you'd show up. He took a drink. Hell of a fire you started. That bunkhouse cost me $2,000. Stand up, Caleb ordered. Or what? You'll shoot me. Maddox laughed. You won't. You need me alive to confess. Otherwise, this whole suicide mission was for nothing. We'll see about that. Sarah appeared in the doorway behind them, rifle trained on Maddox. Hi, Roy. Remember me? Maddox's smile faltered. You. Yeah, me. Sister of the girl you sold west. The girl who died because of you. Sarah moved into the room. You're gonna write down everything. Every girl you bought. Every girl you sold. Every crime you committed. Am I? Maddox set down his glass. And if I don't, then I shoot you in the stomach and watch you die slow. You won't. None of you will. You're not killers. Maddox stood slowly. You're children playing at justice, thinking you can change the world with fire and threats. But you can't. Because I own this world. I own the sheriff, the judge, the bank. I own everything and everyone that matters. You don't own me, Lena said. Maddox looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Ah, there she is, the property that started all this. He moved toward her. You know your father begged me to take you, said you were worthless, said you'd caused him nothing but grief. I did him a favor taking you off his hands. Stop talking. Lena's voice shook. Why does it hurt, learning your own father hated you that much? Maddox smiled. He celebrated the night I took you. Bought drinks for everyone. Told anyone who'd listen that he was finally free. Shut up. Lena raised her gun. Do it, Maddox challenged. Pull the trigger. Kill me. But know this, you'll be just like me then. Just another killer doing whatever it takes to survive. She's nothing like you, Caleb said. Isn't she? She's standing in my house with a gun threatening to kill me. How's that different from what I do? Maddox's eyes glittered. We're all the same when you strip away the lies, all just trying to take what we want by whatever means necessary. No, Lena's hands steadied. I'm taking back what you stole. My freedom, my life. That's not the same. Keep telling yourself that. Maddox moved toward his desk. But it won't change. His hand darted to the drawer. Caleb fired. The bullet took Maddox in the shoulder, spinning him around. He crashed against the desk, blood spreading across his expensive shirt. Jesus! Maddox gasped. You actually shot me. Told you to stop moving. Caleb chambered another round. Do it again, and the next one goes in your head. Outside, more gunfire erupted. Men shouted. The fire was spreading. We don't have much time, Sarah said. Write it down, now. Go to hell. Maddox clutched his shoulder teeth, gritted. Sarah fired. The bullet shattered the whiskey bottle on the desk, showering Maddox with glass and alcohol. He screamed. Right, Sarah repeated. Or the next one goes in your other shoulder, then your knees, then we get creative. Maddox stared at her. Whatever he saw in her eyes made him reach for paper with his good hand. What do you want me to write? The truth, all of it. Sarah pulled out a separate paper, her map with notes. I've got names, dates, girls you bought. Start with my sister, Rebecca Brokenwing, 14 years old, purchased from her uncle for $50. Maddox's hand trembled as he wrote. Now the others, Sarah continued. Lena Carter, Mary Shelby, Anna Watts, all the girls. Where you sent them, who you sold them to. The list grew. 5 names, 10 names, 15. Lena watched in horror. That many I know about, Sarah said grimly. Probably more. When Maddox finished, his face had gone gray from pain and blood loss. There, you have your confession. Now what? Now we take you to the marshal, Caleb said. Let real law handle this. The marshal? Maddox laughed weakly. He's 300 miles away. You'll never make it. We'll make it. No, you won't. Maddox's eyes gleamed with something like triumph. Because I sent men to burn your cabin this morning, and to kill anyone they found there, your woman, your friends, anyone. Caleb's blood went cold. I don't have anyone at the cabin. You sure about that? Maddox smiled through bloody teeth. One of my boys followed you 2 nights ago, saw tracks, 2 horses, 2 people. Went back this morning and found someone inside. You're lying, Lena said. Am I? Maddox coughed. Guess you'll find out when you get back, if there's anything left to find. The floor beneath them shuddered. Smoke began seeping under the door. Fire's spreading, Sarah said. We need to move. Caleb grabbed Maddox by his good arm and hauled him up. You're coming with us. Like hell. Caleb hit him across the face with the rifle butt. Maddox dropped unconscious. Was that necessary? Sarah asked. Very. Caleb looked at Lena. Can you get the horses? She nodded and ran. Caleb and Sarah dragged Maddox's dead weight down the stairs. Smoke filled the house now. Flames licked at the walls. They burst through the front door into chaos. Men fighting the fire horses, screaming, buildings burning. Lena appeared with 3 horses. Caleb threw Maddox over one and tied him down. They mounted and rode hard gunfire following them into the darkness. They didn't stop until they'd put 5 miles between themselves and the ranch. When they finally pulled up, all 3 were coughing from smoke, hands shaking from adrenaline. "We did it," Lena said between gasps. "We actually did it." "We got him and the confession," Sarah corrected. "But we're not done. Not until he's behind bars or dead." Caleb checked Maddox, still breathing, still unconscious. "What he said about my cabin, about someone being there, could be a lie," Sarah said. "Could be truth. Either way, we can't go back there. We have to." Lena's face was pale. "What if someone was there? What if they're hurt?" "Then they're already dead," Sarah said bluntly. "We go back now, we die too. We need to get to the marshal. That's the priority." "She's right," Caleb said, though every instinct screamed to turn around. "We keep moving. Get Maddox to someone who can actually do something." 300 miles, Lena said. "Can we make it?" "We have to." Sarah urged her horse forward. "Because if we don't, everything we just did was for nothing." They rode through the night, taking turns leading Maddox's horse, checking to make sure he didn't bleed out or escape. As dawn broke, they were deep in the mountains following trails only Sarah knew. Maddox woke around noon, groaning. "Where am I?" "On your way to justice," Caleb said. Maddox looked around 3 armed riders, middle of nowhere, blood crusting his shoulder. His face went from confused to calculating to furious in seconds. "You're making a mistake," he said. "You really think the marshal will believe you over me? I've got money. Connections. He'll take one look at you, a drifter, an Indian, and stolen property, and throw you all in jail." "Maybe," Sarah said. "But we'll have your confession, written in your own hand. You think that matters? I'll say you forced me, tortured me, made me write lies." Maddox smiled. "It's your word against mine, and my word's worth more." "We'll see," Caleb said. They rode in silence for another hour. Then Lena spoke. "He's right, isn't he? About the marshal?" "Probably," Sarah admitted. "The law doesn't work for people like us. Never has." "Then why are we doing this?" "Because it's the right thing to do, and sometimes that has to be enough." Sarah looked at her. "You want justice. Real justice. It's gonna be messy and imperfect, and maybe won't work at all. But we try anyway, because the alternative is letting men like him win. And if he does win, if the marshal lets him go..." Sarah's hand moved to her knife. "Then we make sure he never hurts another girl again, one way or another." The words hung in the air, dark, final, inevitable. Caleb knew she meant it. Knew he'd help her if it came to that. Knew they'd all crossed a line tonight that couldn't be uncrossed. They were outlaws now. Vigilantes. People who'd taken justice into their own hands because no one else would. Maybe Maddox was right. Maybe they weren't so different after all. Or maybe that was exactly what he wanted them to think. The sun climbed higher as they pushed deeper into the mountains, chasing a justice that might not exist, carrying a monster who thought he'd already won. Behind them, smoke still rose from Maddox's burning ranch. Ahead, the unknown waited with teeth bared. They'd been riding for 3 days when the storm hit. Not rain-snow. Heavy, wet flakes that turned the world white and made every direction look the same. Caleb pulled his horse up and squinted through the blizzard. "We need shelter," he shouted over the wind. "There's a trapper's cabin 2 miles east," Sarah called back. "If we can find it." "If..." Lena's teeth chattered. "What do you mean if..." "I mean this storm's killing visibility. We could ride right past it." Sarah urged her horse forward. "Stay close. Don't lose sight of each other." They pushed on, hunched against the wind. Maddox hadn't spoken in hours, slumped over, his horse lips blue from cold. His shoulder wound had stopped bleeding, but infection was setting in. He'd be dead in 2 days without proper care. Part of Caleb thought that might solve everything. The rest of him knew it wouldn't. After what felt like hours but was probably 30 minutes, Sarah let out a shout. Through the snow, a dark shape emerged, a cabin, small and sturdy, smoke rising from its chimney. "Someone's there," Caleb said. "Good. We need fire and food." Sarah dismounted and pounded on the door. "Open up. We need help." The door cracked open. A rifle barrel poked through. "State your business," a gruff voice said. "We've got wounded. Need shelter from the storm." Sarah stepped back, hands visible. "We can pay." The door opened wider. An old man stood there, 60, maybe 70, with a gray beard and suspicious eyes. He looked at them, then at Maddox, tied to his horse, then back at them. "What kind of trouble you bringing to my door?" "The kind that'll pass you by if you help us," Caleb said. "The kind that'll camp outside your cabin if you don't." The old man studied him for a long moment. Then he lowered the rifle. "Bring him in. But any funny business and I'll shoot all of you." "Fair enough." They carried Maddox inside and laid him near the fire. The cabin was one-room bed and the corner table, and chairs, shelves lined with supplies. Warm. Dry. Safe. The old man barred the door and turned to face them. "Name's Ezra Cole. I trap in these mountains, mind my own business, and expect others to do the same. Now tell me, who's that man and why's he tied up?" "His name's Roy Maddox," Sarah said. "He's a criminal. We're taking him to the marshal in Cedar Falls." "Cedar Falls? That's 200 miles north." Ezra looked at Maddox's wound. "He won't make it. That shoulder's infected. Needs proper doctoring." "We'll manage," Caleb said. "Will you?" Ezra moved closer to examine Maddox. "Man's got fever. Probably septic. You keep riding in this storm, you're just hauling a corpse." He looked up. "What did he do?" "Must be bad if you're willing to kill him, getting him to justice." "He buys women," Lena said quietly. "Girls. Sells them west to mining camps. Her voice caught. "He bought me from my father." Ezra's face hardened. "I see." He stood and moved to his shelves, pulling down jars and bottles. "I've got medicine. Might help. Might not. But I'll do what I can." "Why?" Sarah asked suspiciously. "What's in it for you?" "Nothing, but I had a daughter once. She disappeared 20 years ago. Never found out what happened." Ezra's hands shook slightly as he mixed a poultice. "If someone did to her what this man does, I'd want someone to help bring him to justice, even if it meant helping strangers in a storm." He worked on Maddox's wound while the others warmed themselves by the fire. Maddox drifted in and out of consciousness, mumbling incoherently. "He's delirious," Ezra said finally. "Fever's high. I've cleaned the wound and applied what I can, but the next 24 hours will tell if he lives or dies." "If he dies, we lose our only witness," Caleb said. "Not our only witness." Sarah pulled the confession from her coat, wrinkled, now stained with smoke and blood, but still legible. "We have this." "Paper's not the same as a living witness," Ezra said. "Any lawyer worth his salt will tear that apart. Say it was forged, coerced, anything to discredit it." "Then we need him alive," Lena said. "As much as I hate that." They settled in for the night. Ezra shared his food, dried meat, beans, coffee. It was the first real meal they'd had in days. As they ate, Ezra asked questions. "How'd you three end up together? You don't look like typical bounty hunters." "We're not," Caleb said. "I found Lena chained in a barn. Freed her. Maddox came after us. Rest just happened." "Just happened." Ezra smiled slightly. "Son, nothing just happens. You made choices. Hard ones. The kind most men avoid. Didn't feel like a choice at the time. The best choices never do." Ezra looked at Sarah. "And you... What's your stake? He killed my sister, 14 years old. Sarah's jaw tightened. I've been tracking him for 6 months, waiting for the right moment. Revenge. Justice. Same thing sometimes. Ezra stood and checked Maddox's forehead. Still burning up. We'll know by morning if he makes it. They took turns keeping watch through the night. Caleb took first shift sitting by the window with his rifle watching snow pile up outside. Lena couldn't sleep and sat beside him. You think we're doing the right thing? She asked quietly. Which part? All of it. Burning his ranch. Taking him by force. Playing judge and jury. She pulled her knees to her chest. Sarah said maybe we're not so different from him. Maybe she's right. She's not. Caleb kept his eyes on the window. We're trying to stop him. He was trying to profit off suffering. That's the difference. Is it, we hurt people tonight? Maybe killed some in that fire. His men. Men who helped him. Men who knew what he was doing and did nothing. Caleb looked at her. You feel guilty about that. I don't know what I feel. Lena's voice was small. I wanted him to suffer. When I saw him bleeding, part of me was glad. And that scares me. Being glad he's hurt doesn't make you like him. It makes you human. Caleb reached over and squeezed her hand. You're allowed to be angry, allowed to want justice, even the messy kind. What if the marshal doesn't believe us? What if this was all for nothing? Then at least we tried. At least we didn't give up. He turned back to the window. My whole life I've watched people give up, give in, accept things they shouldn't. I'm done with that, even if it kills me. It might. I know. They sat in silence until Sarah came to relieve Caleb. He lay down on the floor near the fire and closed his eyes, but sleep was a long time coming. When morning came, Maddox was still alive barely. His fever had broken sometime in the night, leaving him weak and disoriented. Water, he croaked. Lena brought him water. He drank greedily, then looked around at the cabin, remembering. Where are we? Somewhere you can't buy your way out of, Sarah said. How's the shoulder? Hurts like hell. Maddox tried to sit up and failed. I need a doctor, a real one. You'll get one, in Cedar Falls, after you testify. I'm not testifying to anything. Maddox's voice was weak but defiant. You can drag me to the marshal. You can show him that paper. Won't matter. He'll see right through your lies. They're not lies, Lena said. You wrote the truth. The truth? Maddox laughed a wet, painful sound. The truth is, I'm a businessman. I buy and sell goods. Some goods happen to be people. That's not illegal if it's done properly. It's slavery, Caleb said. It's commerce. Those girls' families sold them willingly. I have papers proving it. Legal documents. Nothing I did was against the law. The law's wrong, Sarah said flatly. Maybe, but it's still the law. Maddox closed his eyes. You really think you can change that 3 nobodies against the entire system? We'll see, Caleb said. The storm raged for 2 more days. They were trapped in Ezra's cabin, 5 people in a space meant for one tension thick as the snow outside. Maddox grew stronger each day, which meant he grew more confident, more cutting with his words. You know what's going to happen, he said on the second night. We'll reach the marshal. He'll listen to your story. He'll look at you a deserter, a savage, and a whore. Caleb hit him, hard. Maddox's head snapped back, blood streaming from his nose. Watch your mouth, Caleb said quietly. Or what, you'll kill me. Maddox spat blood. You won't. You need me. You need me alive and talking, or this whole thing falls apart. He smiled through broken lips. I'm the most valuable thing you've got, and we all know it. He's right, Sarah said later after they'd tied Maddox up again. As long as we need his testimony, he's got leverage. So what do? Lena asked. We make sure the marshal believes us, even without Maddox's cooperation. Sarah spread out the confession. We memorize this. Every name, every date, every detail. If Maddox recants, we need to be able to corroborate it ourselves. They spent the next day studying the document, burning the names into their memories. Rebecca Broken Wing, Mary Shelby, Anna Watts. 15 girls, total 15 lives destroyed. My sister's name was Mary, Ezra said quietly, reading over their shoulders. Mary Cole disappeared in 1853. She was 16. Sarah looked up. How'd she disappear? Just walked out one day to go to town, never came back. Sheriff said she probably ran off with some drifter. Ezra's voice was hollow. But she wouldn't do that. She was a good girl. She wouldn't just leave. Maddox has been doing this for 20 years, Sarah said. Maybe longer. If your daughter went missing near his territory, then maybe he took her. Ezra looked at Maddox sleeping by the fire. Maybe I've been living 200 miles from the man who destroyed my life. Maybe, Caleb said carefully, but we don't know for sure. I know. Ezra stood abruptly and walked to the window. But if there's even a chance... He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. On the third morning, the storm finally broke. Ezra helped them prepare for the journey, gave them supplies, warm clothes, advice on the route. Marshall's name is William Tucker, he said. Good man, fair, he'll listen. Whether he'll believe you is another matter. We'll make him believe, Sarah said. I hope so. Ezra looked at Maddox, now awake and glaring. Because if you don't, men like him will keep doing this. Forever. They set out at dawn. Maddox tied to his horse, Ezra watching from his cabin door. As they rode away, Caleb looked back once and saw the old man still standing there, a lonely figure against the white landscape, waiting for answers that might never come. The ride to Cedar Falls took 5 more days. The terrain was brutal: mountains, rivers, forests, thick enough to hide an army. Twice they spotted riders in the distance and had to detour. Maddox's men probably still hunting them. They won't give up, Maddox said when he saw them change course. My boys are loyal. They'll follow you all the way to Cedar Falls if they have to. Let them, Caleb said. Won't change anything. Won't it? Maddox smiled. What happens when we reach town and my men are waiting? What happens when it's 20 guns against your 3? We'll manage. You keep saying that. Keep pretending you're in control. Maddox leaned forward as far as his bonds allowed. But you're not. You're running scared, hoping to reach safety before I bleed out or my men catch up. That's not control. That's desperation. Better desperate than evil, Lena said. Is it? Maddox looked at her. You think desperation makes you noble, makes you right. Desperation makes you dangerous, makes you do things you'll regret. I won't regret stopping you. Maybe not now, but wait until you're standing in front of the marshal, watching him shake his head. Watching him let me walk free, because he doesn't believe a word you say. Maddox's smile widened. That's when the regret comes. When you realize you sacrificed everything for nothing. Shut up, Sarah said. Make me. She rode closer and backhanded him across the face. Maddox's head snapped to the side, but he was laughing when he straightened. See, desperate, dangerous, just like me. They rode in tense silence after that. Each night they camped, someone always kept watch. Each morning, they woke expecting an ambush. The stress wore on them, frayed tempers, short words, hands that stayed too close to weapons. On the 7th day since leaving Ezra's cabin, they crested a hill and saw Cedar Falls spread out below. It was bigger than Redemption, maybe 500 people with an actual main street, multiple businesses, and a building that had to be the marshal's office. There it is, Caleb said. End of the line. Or the beginning, Sarah said. Depends on what happens next. They rode down slowly, drawing stares from townspeople. A man tied to his horse, 3 rough-looking riders with hard eyes and harder expressions. They looked like trouble because they were trouble. The marshal's office was easy to find. Caleb dismounted and tied his horse. Sarah and Lena did the same. They pulled Maddox down. He stumbled, still weak from his wound, and half-dragged him toward the door. It opened before they reached it. A man stepped out, tall, gray-haired, weathered-faced star pinned to his chest. Marshal William Tucker. "Help you folks?" he asked, hand resting casually on his gun. "Marshal Tucker," Caleb said. "My name's Caleb Ross. We need to talk to you about this man. Roy Maddox. He's wanted for—" "I know who Roy Maddox is." Tucker's expression didn't change. "Question is, why do you have him tied up like a criminal?" "Because he is a criminal," Sarah said. "He buys women and girls, sells them to mining camps. We have proof." "Proof?" Tucker looked skeptical. "What kind of proof?" Sarah pulled out the confession. Written in his own hand. Names, dates, everything. Tucker took the paper and read it. His expression stayed neutral, giving nothing away. When he finished, he looked at Maddox. "This true, Roy?" "Hell no," Maddox said quickly. "They kidnapped me, beat me, forced me to write that pack of lies. I'm the victim here, Will." Will. First name basis. Caleb's stomach sank. "That's not true," Lena said. "He bought me from my father, kept me chained in a barn for weeks. He was going to sell me—" "You have proof of that?" Tucker asked. "Witnesses, documents?" "My father burned the papers," Lena said. "And the witnesses are all Maddox's men." "So no proof." Tucker folded the confession and handed it back to Sarah. "Look, I don't know what happened between you folks and Roy, but what I see here is 3 people accusing a respected rancher of crimes without evidence. That's not enough." "Respected," Sarah's voice rose. "He's a monster." "Maybe, but monsters deserve due process, same as anyone." Tucker looked at Maddox's wound. "You need a doctor, Roy." "Yeah, these lunatics shot me when I tried to defend myself." "We shot him because he pulled a weapon," Caleb said, "after we caught him with the confession. He says you forced him to write it. You say he wrote it willingly. It's your word against his." Tucker stepped back. "I'm going to have to ask you 3 to hand over your weapons while we sort this out." "Sort what out?" Sarah demanded. "We just handed you a confession." "A confession obtained under duress isn't worth the paper it's written on." Tucker's hand moved closer to his gun. "Now, weapons. Nice and slow." Caleb looked at Sarah. She looked at Lena. They were trapped 3 against an entire town, a marshal who was either incompetent or bought, and no proof that would stand up. Maddox had been right. They'd sacrificed everything for nothing. "We're not giving up our guns," Caleb said quietly. "Then you're under arrest," Tucker said. "Kidnapping, assault, arson. I got a telegram 2 days ago about a ranch fire south of here. That's your work." "He was holding girls there," Lena said desperately. "Ask around. Someone must know." "I did ask around. Know what I heard? Roy Maddox is a pillar of the community, donates to the church, employs half the county." Tucker pulled his gun. "Now. Last chance. Weapons down or I shoot." Sarah's hand moved toward her rifle. "Don't," Caleb said. "It's over." "Like hell it is." But Sarah's hand stopped, because she knew he was right. They couldn't win. Not here, not now. Slowly they surrendered their weapons. Tucker had them locked in a cell while he took Maddox to the doctor. Through the barred window, Caleb watched Maddox walk away, limping but alive, smiling over his shoulder. "I told you," Maddox called back. "You can't beat me. Nobody can." The cell door slammed shut with a sound like the end of the world. "What now?" Lena asked, voice hollow. "Now?" Caleb sat on the narrow cot. "Now we figure out how to escape before they hang us." "Escape?" Sarah laughed bitterly. "We're in a locked cell in a town that doesn't believe us. We've got nothing. No weapons, no allies, no proof they'll accept. We've got each other, Lena said. That's not enough. It has to be. Lena moved to the bars and gripped them. We've come too far to give up now. Sometimes coming too far is the problem, Sarah said. Sometimes you push so hard, you go past the point where you can still win. I don't believe that. Then you're a fool. Maybe. Lena turned to face them. But I'm a fool who's not giving up. Caleb didn't give up when he found me. You didn't give up tracking Maddox for 6 months. We don't give up now. Caleb looked at her, this woman who'd been broken and was still breaking but refused to shatter completely. This woman who'd learned to shoot and fight and stand up when standing up seemed impossible. She's right, he said. We find a way. What way? Sarah demanded. The marshals against us. The town's against us. Maddox is free and we're locked up. What possible way is there? I don't know yet. Caleb stood and moved to the window. But there's always a way, always. We just have to find it before they find a rope. Outside Cedar Falls went about its business, people shopping, working, living. Normal life while 3 people sat in a cell waiting for justice that might never come. Or waiting to make their own. The question was, which would happen first? Night came to Cedar Falls like a judgment. Caleb sat in the darkness of the cell, listening to the town settle into sleep. Beside him, Lena dozed fitfully against the wall. Across from them, Sarah stared at the ceiling, jaw tight. You awake? Caleb whispered. Yeah. Been thinking about what you said, about going too far. And maybe you're right. Maybe we did push too hard. But I'd rather die trying than live knowing I gave up. He shifted on the cot. My wife died while I was gone. I wasn't there. Couldn't save her. But I'm here now. For Lena. For your sister's memory. For all those girls. He paused. I'm not walking away from that. Not even if it kills me. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then, my sister's name was Rebecca. She was smart, smarter than me. Always reading, always asking questions. Her voice roughened. When Maddox's men took her, she fought. They had to drag her. I watched from the window, too scared to help. 14 years old and too scared to save my own sister. You were a child. I was a coward. Sarah sat up. That's why I tracked him. Why I waited 6 months for the right moment. I was trying to make up for not fighting then. And now I'm in a cell waiting to hang for trying to do the right thing. She laughed bitterly. Seems about right. We're not hanging. No. What's your plan? Because from where I sit... The door to the marshal's office opened. Footsteps approached. A lantern appeared, carried by someone small. A woman. She stopped outside their cell, middle-aged, plain-dressed, tired eyes. She looked at them carefully, then spoke in a low voice. My name is Ruth Dawes. I'm the sheriff's wife back in Redemption. She held up a key. I'm getting you out. Why? Caleb stood quickly. Because I saw what Maddox did. Saw girls come and go. Heard them crying in that barn. Ruth's hands shook as she unlocked the cell. My husband works for Maddox. I hate him for it. Hate myself for not speaking up. But I'm speaking now. Where's the marshal? Sarah asked, grabbing her weapons from the desk. Drunk. Maddox bought him 3 bottles of whiskey to celebrate. He'll be out for hours. Ruth handed them their guns. But you need to hurry. There are men watching the jail. Maddox's men. How many? 3 outside. Maybe more coming. Ruth moved to a back door. This leads to an alley. My wagon's there. Get in quick. They didn't argue. Caleb shook Ruth's hand. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just stop him. For all the girls he's taken. She opened the door. Go. They ran into the alley. Ruth's wagon waited, covered, cramped, but functional. They climbed in as Ruth took the driver's seat. Stay quiet, she whispered. We're going to the church. There's someone there who can help. The wagon moved slowly through dark streets. Caleb peered through a gap in the canvas, and saw Maddox's men standing outside the jail, smoking, talking, oblivious. 5 minutes later, Ruth pulled up outside a small church. She helped them down and led them inside. A man waited there, old, thin, wearing priest's robes. He looked up as they entered. "Ruth, you brought them." "I did, Father Michael." Ruth turned to Caleb. "The father's been documenting Maddox's crimes for years. He has proof. Real proof." Father Michael moved to a trunk and opened it. Inside were papers, letters, testimonies, dates, and names written in careful script. "I've recorded everything I could," he said. "Every girl who disappeared. Every family destroyed. I tried going to the law, but the law works for Maddox." Sarah finished. "Yes." Father Michael pulled out a thick folder. "This is everything. 20 years of crimes. Names you don't have. Details even Maddox doesn't remember." Caleb flipped through the pages. Mary Cole Ezra's daughter. She was here. So were dozens of others. "Why didn't you do something before?" Lena asked. "I tried. No one would listen. No one wanted to believe their town was built on suffering." Father Michael's voice was heavy with guilt. "I'm a coward. But maybe I can help you be brave." "What do you suggest?" Caleb asked. "There's a federal judge coming through town tomorrow. Judge Morrison. He's honest, one of the few. If you can get to him, show him this evidence, he'll act." "Where's he staying?" "The hotel. But Maddox knows he's coming. He'll have men watching." Father Michael closed the trunk. "You'll have to be smart about this." "Or loud," Sarah said. "Make so much noise Maddox can't hide." "What do you mean?" "I mean we go public. Tomorrow when the town gathers for Sunday service, we tell everyone everything. Show them the proof. Make them see what Maddox really is." "They won't believe us," Ruth said. "Most of them benefit from Maddox's money. They'll protect him." "Maybe. But some won't. Some will have daughters. Some will remember girls who disappeared." Sarah looked at Father Michael. "Will you help us? Will you speak against him?" The old priest was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Yes, God forgive me for taking so long, but yes." They planned through the night. Father Michael would hold service as usual. Midway through, he'd call Caleb and the others forward. They'd present the evidence. The judge would be there. Ruth would make sure of it. "It's risky," Caleb said. "Maddox will have men in the church." "Everything's risky now," Lena said. "But it's our last chance." "What about after? Even if the judge believes us, Maddox won't go quietly." "Then we make sure he doesn't have a choice." Sarah checked her rifle. "One way or another, this ends tomorrow." Morning came too fast. Ruth hid them in the church basement while the town woke. They heard footsteps overhead, people arriving for service, talking, laughing. Normal Sunday sounds in a town that didn't know it was about to explode. Father Michael came down at 9. "Everyone's here, including Maddox. He's sitting in the front row like he owns the place." "He thinks he does," Caleb said. "Judge Morrison." Sitting 3 rows back. Ruth spoke to him. "He'll listen." Father Michael took a deep breath. "Are you ready?" "No," Lena said. "But we're doing it anyway." They climbed the stairs and waited behind the altar. Through a gap in the curtain, Caleb saw the congregation, maybe 100 people, families, children, and in the front row, Roy Maddox, shoulder bandaged, smiling like a king. Father Michael began the service. Prayers, hymns, routine words that meant nothing and everything. Then he paused. "Before we continue," he said, voice carrying through the church, "there's something this town needs to hear, something I should have said years ago." The congregation stirred. Maddox's smile faltered. "There's evil among us. Not the abstract evil of sin, but concrete evil. The evil of men who profit from suffering, who destroy families, who treat human lives as property." Father Michael gestured. "Come forward." Caleb, Sarah, and Lena stepped out from behind the altar. The congregation gasped. Whispers erupted. Maddox stood quickly. "What is this?" he demanded. "This is the truth," Father Michael said. "These people have evidence of crimes committed in our town, crimes we've all ignored, crimes I've been documenting for 20 years. "He's lying," Maddox shouted. "These criminals kidnapped me. They should be in jail." "They were in jail," Father Michael said calmly, "until someone with a conscience let them out, because sometimes breaking the law is the only way to uphold justice." "Judge Morrison," Maddox turned to the gray-haired man 3 rows back. "I demand you arrest these people." Judge Morrison stood slowly. "I'll hear what they have to say first." "They're criminals." "So you keep saying, but I'm curious why you're so desperate to silence them." Morrison moved to the front. "Show me your evidence." Sarah handed him Father Michael's folder. Morrison flipped through it, expression darkening with each page. "These are serious accusations," he said. "They're lies." Maddox's voice climbed. "Fabrications by people who want to destroy me." "Are they?" Morrison held up a page. "This letter is from a mother in Kansas asking about her missing daughter. It names you specifically. Are all these mothers lying?" "I don't know anything about that." "And this?" Morrison held up another document. "Bank records showing unusual payments. Large sums going to you corresponding with reports of missing girls. Coincidence?" "I run a business. Money changes hands." "What kind of business, Mr. Maddox?" Morrison's voice was ice. "Explain to this congregation exactly what business requires buying young women." Maddox's face went red. "I don't have to explain anything to you or anyone else." "Actually, you do." Morrison turned to the congregation. "This folder contains evidence of at least 30 crimes. Kidnapping, human trafficking, possibly murder, all committed by the man you've protected and profited from for 20 years. Silence fell over the church, heavy, suffocating. Then a woman in the back stood. "My niece disappeared 3 years ago, Sarah Johnson. Is she in there?" Morrison checked the folder. "Yes. Reported sold to a mining camp in Colorado." Another person stood. "My cousin Mary. Is she there?" "Yes." "My daughter." "Yes." More people stood. More names called out. More grief acknowledged. The weight of Maddox's crimes became real, tangible, undeniable. Maddox backed toward the door. "You're all fools if you believe this. They're manipulating you." "The only manipulation here is yours," Judge Morrison said. "You're under arrest, Mr. Maddox, for crimes against—" Maddox pulled a gun. The church erupted in screams. People dove for cover. Maddox grabbed the nearest person, a young woman, and pressed the gun to her head. "Nobody moves," he shouted. "Nobody comes near me or she dies." "Let her go," Caleb said, hand moving toward his weapon. "Like hell. This town owes me. I built this place, brought money, jobs, prosperity. You think any of that happens without sacrifice?" Maddox dragged the woman toward the door. Those girls were necessary. Their families understood that. Everyone understood that. "Their families were desperate," Father Michael said. "You exploited that desperation. I gave them a way out, gave them money when they had nothing." Maddox's gun hand shook. "I'm not the villain here. I'm the solution to their problems." "You're a monster," Lena said, stepping forward. "You chained me like an animal. Beat me. Planned to sell me to men who'd use me until I died. You call that a solution? You were your father's problem. I solved it." "My father was a drunk and a coward. Same as you." Lena's voice was steady now, strong. "But I'm not his property. I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's. And I'm done being afraid of you." She pulled out her revolver and aimed it at Maddox. "Let her go," Lena said. "Now." "You won't shoot. You'll hit the girl." "Maybe. Or maybe I'm a better shot than you think." Lena's hands didn't shake. "Either way, you're not walking out of here." "Lena," Caleb said quietly, "don't." He deserves it, she said. For Rebecca. For Mary. For every girl whose name is in that folder. He deserves to die. He does, Caleb agreed. But you don't deserve to carry that weight. Let the law handle it. The law? Lena laughed. Not the broken sound from before, but something harder. The law put us in jail. The law protected him for 20 years. Why should I trust it now? Because I'll make sure justice is done, Judge Morrison said. I give you my word, but if you shoot him, you become what he is. You become the person who decides who lives and dies. He decided that for 30 girls. And he'll pay for it, with his life if necessary, but through the law, through justice. Morrison stepped closer. Don't let him take your soul along with everything else he's stolen. Lena's gun wavered. Maddox saw the opening and shoved the woman away, and ran for the door firing wildly. Caleb drew and fired back. His bullet took Maddox in the leg. The big man went down hard, gun skittering across the floor. People swarmed him, men from the congregation, angry and ashamed, holding him down while he screamed and fought. Judge Morrison picked up Maddox's gun. Roy Maddox, you're under arrest. You'll be held in territorial prison until trial. And I promise you the trial will be fair, which is more than you gave any of those girls. Deputies appeared, real deputies from the territorial government, not Maddox's paid men. They hauled him away, still screaming about injustice and betrayal. The church emptied slowly. Families left quietly, shame and grief etched on their faces. They'd known. Maybe not everything, but enough. And they'd said nothing. Father Michael stood at the altar, head bowed. I should have acted sooner. You acted when it mattered, Caleb said. That's what counts. Is it? Those girls are still gone, still suffering or dead, because I was too afraid. You gave us the evidence we needed. That's not nothing. Caleb gripped the old priest's shoulder. You can't undo the past. None of us can. But you helped end it. That matters. Outside, Judge Morrison was organizing Maddox's arrest and the beginning of a proper investigation. Ruth Dawes stood with him giving testimony. Other townspeople were starting to come forward, adding their own pieces to the puzzle. Sarah found Caleb near the church steps. The judge wants statements from all of us. Formal testimony for the trial. We'll give it. He also said we're free to go. No charges for the jailbreak or anything else. Said what we did was justified. Sarah paused. So what now? Where do we go? I don't know. Haven't thought that far ahead. Caleb looked around. What about you? What will you do? The judge is organizing an effort to find the girls Maddox sold. Bring them home if they're still alive. I told him I'd help. Sarah smiled slightly. Someone has to speak for them. Make sure they're not forgotten. That's good. They need that. What about you and Lena? Caleb found Lena sitting on a bench near the church, staring at nothing. He sat beside her. You okay? I don't know. I thought I'd feel different. Triumphant or relieved or something, but I just feel... She searched for the word. Empty. That's normal. You've been running on fear and anger for so long. Now that it's over, there's just space where those feelings were. Is it really over? Maddox is arrested, but there are still his men out there. Still judges and sheriffs on his payroll. The judge will handle it. This is bigger than one corrupt town now. This is federal. Caleb took her hand. It's really over, Lena. You're really free. She turned to look at him, tears streaming down her face. What do I do with freedom? I don't even remember what that feels like. Then we figure it out together. He squeezed her hand. I've got a piece of land up north, near the Yellowstone. Been meaning to build something there. Could use help. You're asking me to come with you. I'm saying you don't have to be alone anymore, if you want. He paused. No pressure. You're free to go anywhere, do anything. But if you want company while you figure out what freedom looks like... Yes, she said. Yes, I'll come with you. They sat together while the sun climbed higher, burning off the last shadows. Around them, Cedar Falls began the long work of reckoning with what it had allowed, what it had ignored, what it had been. Some people would face that reckoning honestly. Others would make excuses, minimize, forget. That was human nature, the need to believe you're good, even when you've done terrible things. But for Caleb and Lena, the reckoning was done. They'd faced evil and fought it and survived. They'd lost things: innocence, peace, certainty about what justice meant. But they'd gained something too. Hope. Not the simple hope of children who believe in fairy tales, but the harder hope of people who've seen darkness and chosen light anyway. 2 weeks later, they rode north together. Sarah stayed in Cedar Falls working with the judge. Ruth Dawes left her husband and joined the effort to find the missing girls. Father Michael continued documenting, ensuring history would remember. Maddox stood trial 3 months later. The evidence was overwhelming, the testimony damning. He was sentenced to hang, though he never stopped insisting he'd done nothing wrong, that everyone was against him, that he was the real victim. Some men die without ever understanding what they've done. Caleb and Lena built a cabin near the Yellowstone, where the mountains touched the sky and the rivers ran clean. It wasn't easy. Nothing about starting over ever is. Lena still had nightmares, still flinched at sudden movements, still carried the weight of what her father had done. But slowly, day by day, she healed. She learned to ride without fear, learned to laugh again, learned that freedom wasn't something given or taken. It was something you claimed every single day by choosing to live instead of just survive. One evening, as the sun set over the mountains, she sat beside Caleb on the porch they'd built together. "Do you ever think about going back?" she asked. "To Cedar Falls or redemption, seeing what happened to everyone?" "Sometimes. But I don't need to go back. What matters is what happened, what we did." He looked at her. "Do you want to go back?" "No. Those places are full of ghosts." She leaned against him. "This is home now. This is where I want to be." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out one by one. Somewhere out there, other girls were still fighting for freedom. Other people were facing impossible choices. Other battles were being won and lost. But here in this moment, there was peace. And for two people who'd walked through hell together, peace was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Years later, when people asked about the chains, the rusted links Lena kept hanging by the door, she'd tell them it was a reminder. Not of what had been done to her, but of what she'd survived. What she'd overcome. Who she'd become. "I was sold by my father and chained like an animal," she'd say. "But I'm not that frightened girl anymore. I'm the woman who broke her chains and helped bring down the man who made them. And I'm free. Finally completely free." And when people asked Caleb why he'd risked everything for a stranger, he'd smile and say, "She wasn't a stranger, she was someone who needed help, and I was someone who could give it." Sometimes it's really that simple. But it wasn't simple. It never is. It was hard and painful and dangerous and nearly cost them everything. But it was worth it. Every scar, every sleepless night, every moment of fear and doubt. All worth it. Because in the end, they'd done what most people only dream of doing. They'd stood up to evil and won. Not perfectly, not without cost, but they'd won. And in a world full of chains and darkness and men who profit from suffering, sometimes winning is the only thing that matters. Sometimes fighting is the only prayer worth saying. Sometimes breaking chains your own or someone else's is the only way to prove you're still human. Caleb and Lena proved it, and they kept proving it every day for the rest of their lives. That's what freedom really means. Not the absence of chains, but the courage to break them. Not the absence of fear, but the will to stand despite it. Not perfection, but persistence. They found that truth together in a barn full of chains and carried it with them into the mountains. And there, under endless western skies, they built a life that mattered not because it was easy or perfect or simple, but because they'd chosen it, because they'd fought for it, because they'd refused to give up on themselves or each other. And that refusal, that stubborn, impossible, beautiful refusal to accept chains as destiny, made all the difference.